Well, welcome everyone. Good to see all your smiling faces at the June Louisville Town Council briefing. Welcome to those of you who are watching us on TV6 or on Zoom. Or Hank, are we on Facebook this evening too?
No, we don't do Facebook at regular meetings.
Okay, after 3 or 4 years, I should know that by now, but obviously I didn't. Very good. Council members, I think we've had one change or one addition to the agenda. And if you all saw it, it will be, well, actually, it's not to the agenda. It's just a reminder that we have our final budget meeting this evening after our regular meeting adjourns.
Yeah.
Hank, have there been any other changes since we sent this out?
Yes, Mayor, I had sent you an email earlier. We're going to need to do a brief closed session also.
Very good. Okay, we'll add that right after council discussion for the good of the order. All righty. With that, we'll begin our meeting with a roll call of our distinguished council members. Ms. Welch.
Here.
Dr. Sadler.
Present.
Ms. Foster.
Present.
Mr. Smitherman.
Present.
Mr. Franklin.
I'm here, Mayor.
Ms. Hunt.
Happy Thursday.
And the mayor is here as he turns off his phone. Very good. If there are no other changes to the agenda, we'll move for a motion to adopt the agenda for this evening.
Motion.
Ms. Foster makes the motion. Mr. Smitherman makes the second. Any additional discussion? Very good. Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
Ms. Foster.
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That's unanimous. We also have with us this evening our manager Hank Perkins, our town finance officer Pam Orell, our town public works director Ryan Moser, our town planner Stacy Tolbert, and I thought momentarily we had our intern who dropped off. Okay.
She's just watching tonight.
Okay.
We'll be
Very good.
introduced next week.
Okay. Well, we keep putting it off, so we get to see her next week then. Very good. We're now down to items requiring action at our briefing. Pam, I think you have the first batch of items.
Yes, and just to give you a little background on this particular item, on March 11th, the American Rescue Plan Act became law. This federal act in turn established a program called the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Funds. And it is designed to deliver $350 billion to state and local and territorial and tribal governments. As the town of Louisville is a smaller local government with less than 50,000 citizens, we will be receiving our allocation of the funds through the state of North Carolina. Allocations are based on population, but in no event will a local government receive in excess of 75% of their local government's operating budget as of January 27th, 2020. So using that particular formula, right now I'm estimating that our town will receive approximately $3.6 million from this fund. That is an estimation right now. We'll know more in a few weeks. The allocation will be made in 2 installments. We will receive our first allocation, which will be half of it this month. And then the final installment will be received a year from now. We do have until December 31st of 2024 to obligate our funding to projects that fall within 4 very broad categories established by the Act. And then we have another 2 years beyond that to fully disperse the funds. So we have quite a few years to plan out how we want to spend this money. Before we can take possession of the funds this month, I do need the town council to pass this resolution tonight to approve acceptance of the funds. Now, when you pass this resolution, you're doing 3 things. First, the resolution states that the town will use the funds only for the purposes prescribed in the American Rescue Plan Act. Secondly, it further states that the funds will be kept in a separate fund and will not be commingled with other revenue. And third and lastly, the resolution states that the town will return any unspent balance of the funds received. So
Good.
we have-
The agenda shows that as an ordinance. Is it an
Pardon?
ordinance or? resolution?
I think it's
We
probably
did it-
resolution. Yeah,
yeah, I think we need to change the wording on that.
Okay,
I
we'll do
think the
that.
agenda is wrong. Yeah.
Ms. Hunt, did
It's
you have a
still-
question?
Still number 40.
I did. Thank you, Mayor. Pam, you had mentioned 4 categories. Can you detail those categories for me as to what the 4, you had mentioned something to the effect of there's 4 categories. What are those categories?
Yeah, I'll just give you a very brief description of
That's
each
fine.
one. The first one are expenditures that are meant to respond to the public health emergency with respect to the coronavirus disease and its negative economic impacts. That's an extremely broad category of expenditures. The second one has to do with premium pay that might be paid to eligible workers or essential workers. The third one has to do with loss of revenue. And then the fourth one is to make necessary investments in water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. And those are 4 broad categories, and it's hard to say right now what we'll be able to spend our money on because it's still up to interpretation. The North Carolina Pandemic Recovery Office is working with the U.S. Treasury Office to define these possibilities and help us come up with what we can spend our money on. So a lot of this is still up to interpretation.
And so the time period is, you said 2024 and then another 2 years after that? So
Yeah, as long as
2026.
we obligate our funds by December 31st, 2024, we have another 2 years to December 31st, 2026 to actually disperse the funds.
Okay. And then when we don't disperse, we get back.
We have to give it back.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Pam, one question. Do we actually receive that money in a separate account?
Yes, it will be deposited into our checking account,
Okay.
but the ordinance after this one will be establishing a special revenue fund. And so it will be tracked in a separate fund.
And we may invest that in the safe, secure way that we ordinarily invest?
To preserve principal, yes.
Yeah, okay. Very good. And if we do that, so the interest is in addition to whatever has been allocated to us. Very
Yes,
good. Okay,
yes. Mhm.
excellent.
Okay, any other questions?
A quick question, please, Pam. Is there any problem if we spend it all on one of these 4?
No, in fact, if you wanted to spend it all on sewer infrastructure, you could do that. So whatever you would like to spend it on, as long as it falls within these categories.
And we've been attending workshops, video workshops that have been put on by the North Carolina League of Municipalities. And so we have questions, but so do the other 535 municipalities across North Carolina. And I suspect that, yeah, we have 4 broad categories, but I suspect we're going to be seeing some modifications and changes and amplifications of those as we move through this period of time. So it's truly a once in a lifetime opportunity for us to be able to invest in the town of Louisville and things that we would not ordinarily have the ready money available for. So I think it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for us. With that, if there's no other questions for Pam, we'll entertain a motion to pass. Do we have a resolution number or just the resolution?
It should be resolution 2021-040.
Move approval.
Second,
Dr. Sadler makes a motion. I believe Ms. Welch, you made the second?
I think Fred and I were tied.
Okay. Well, I'll untie you and give you the second. Any additional discussion? Very good. Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That is unanimous. Pam, you have the another associated resolution that we do with her. This is an ordinance.
All right, it's an ordinance 2021-028, and this is to establish the American Rescue Plan Special Revenue Fund. So this is how we'll actually track the money and how we spend it.
Motion
Very
to
good.
approve ordinance 2021-028.
Franklin makes a motion.
Second.
Ms. Hunt makes the second, I believe, or Ms. Foster. Ms. Foster makes the second. Very good. Any additional discussion? Ms. Welch,
Approve.
Dr. Sadler,
Approve.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Smithman,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Mayor's eye, that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Pam, you have actually you have all the next two items, so let's just roll through them.
Okay, the next one is a budget amendment. It's ordinance 2021-031. This is to amend budget ordinance 2020-001 in the amount of $10,000 to increase the budget for legal fees within the governing body department. We started the year in that department with a budget of $43,000. And I have pretty much used up all of that, and we still have 2 more months to cover, May and June. And $10,000 should be a gracious plenty. That would be the high water mark of what I would need. So I'm asking you to approve that budget amendment tonight.
Any questions for Ms. Orell? No,
If
we'll
you don't
entertain a
mind,
motion. I'm sorry.
quick question for Pam. If you don't mind, if you could briefly say where some of those legal expenses go. I mean, I would assume it's like for our attorney fees and anything
It's-
else.
Yeah, it's attorney fees. Mostly the largest ticket item this year has been related to the Solomon project. We've had a lot of attorney fees related to that. The community center has also, there've been a lot of attorney fees related to the community center when we had the debt issuance. We used those expertise on that, and also with reviewing contracts. Also, our council meetings are a little bit longer this year than they have been in the past. And so that uses up more of Bo's time as well. And I think Bo recently has been helping with some ordinance revisions that have used up quite a bit of his time. So that's where I saw most of
Thank
the
you, Pam.
increase. Mhm.
That's very helpful.
Any other questions? We'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
Mr. Smith makes a motion, Ms. Foster makes the second. Any additional discussion? Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman.
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye.
Ms. Hunt.
Aye.
Mayor's eye, that's unanimous.
Mayor, I didn't get the second on that. I want to take some decent notes.
Second was Ms. Foster,
And then the motion was,
Mr. Smitherman.
thank you.
Pam, final item on this category.
Okay, and it's also a budget amendment. It's ordinance 2021-033. This is to amend budget ordinance 2020-001 in the amount of $10,000 to increase the budget for Powellville right-of-way maintenance. We started the year in that account with $30,000, and what comes out of that account is the bush hogging and flail mowing of the right-of-ways for the town maintained streets, and also any tree removal that has to be done out of the right-of-ways after storms. We have gone through pretty much all of that money this year. And so the $10,000 I'm asking for is basically a contingency in case we do have a storm in the month of June that would require some more tree removal, because I am out of money in that account right now. So it's basically contingency to cover me in case something happens.
And if we don't use it, it goes right back in the general fund.
Exactly.
That's correct.
Mr. Franklin.
I'll make a motion to approve this ordinance, 033.
I'll second.
24. Yeah.
Mr. Franklin makes the motion, Ms. Welch makes the second. Any additional discussion? Ms. Hunt,
Oh, aye.
I reversed order on you, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Mayor's eye, that's unanimous. We do have some unfinished business. Stacy, do you want to, this is the, our residential street tree ordinance. And I believe we had the public hearing on this in May.
Yes, Mayor,
And-
that's correct.
and
We
then
have
we'll
the May
have a-
13th.
If you'll just recap it for us, and tonight we'll actually take action on it.
Okay, if you recall, we've been over this quite a few times. As far as the new regulations for street tree requirements, the main difference is adding a setback for street trees to be planted from the sidewalk or back of curb, depending on the size of the tree. As well as some changes that we made from recommendations from the Louisville Beautification Committee on our recommended tree list. That's in our ordinance. And then lastly, a new requirement to have the landscaping plan to be part of the initial review, to be part of the approval of any major subdivision where street trees are required, so that it would be planned ahead where those trees are going to be placed, around utilities, driveways, street lighting, those types of things, in order for them to get placed correctly, and not have to for the trees to be an afterthought. So the mayor is correct. The public hearing was held on May 13th. Neither Joyce nor I received any written comments in the 24-hour period after that. And so tonight it's available for any discussion you'd like to have. And then tonight is the date that was set to hold the vote for that text amendment.
Thank you, Stacy. Any questions? Very good. We'll entertain a motion. Mr. Smitherman makes the motion.
I'll
Dr.
second.
Sadler makes the second. Any additional discussion? Ms. Welch?
Approved.
Mr. Smitherman?
Aye.
Mr. Franklin?
Aye.
Dr. Sadler?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Hunt?
Aye.
Mayor's aye, and that is unanimous.
Thank
Hank?
you, Council.
We're down to administrative reports.
Okay, I have a handful of things to go over. First, as you will probably have noted, Chapter 17 was not on the agenda for this evening. After our last meeting, we did have some feedback from the county attorney's office. I don't think it's going to be anything that drastic, but I'm still waiting on that. I'm going to push her for that. If I get all that worked out, I will have this up for your consideration next week at the regular meeting. Next, I want to talk about the Gateway project, and I've got a visual here. I think Melissa Hunt asked me if we could, because she had gotten some questions from some residents and about just what is the project and how it would affect it. But let me go over this a little bit so I make sure that we get the information pertinent to this group before I show this. We've selected the CEI firm. This is the firm that will be in charge of overseeing the construction of the project. That firm, we got a waiver from the North Carolina Department of Transportation to allow the design firm, Kimley Horn, to participate. They participated in the process where we had about 5 firms that submitted letters of interest to do this work. And we had a small committee get together and had personal interviews for shortlist candidates. We did select Kimley Horn. We felt they were the best qualified to oversee the project. Next, we have the construction contract bid openings that will be done this coming Monday. And if we get 3 bids for the project and we're able to do it with appropriate, I guess, blessings from the DOT for the process, I think this stage is pretty easy. We will be back to town council at the regular meeting next week to ask the town council to approve the construction contract for the bid. The goal here is to end up with pre-construction meetings happening in July, with the start of construction happening very shortly after that. Okay, I'm going to go down to hold on. I told you I was going to share something.
Hank, what's our completion time on that?
It's 225 days, which is about 8 months. That's the amount of time on the contract.
Okay. And once again, we'll do a yeoman's job of communicating with residents because there will be some traffic interruption.
That is right.
Yeah.
This is not to be considered an accurate representation, for the details as the project as it exists today. This is a nice picture to give those who are watching an idea of the limits of the project. It will tie in on the eastern side at the Oaks Shopping Center at the Shallowford Road roundabout. It will go through a widening that you'll see that along Williams Road down to the Circle K. We're going to end up with probably a 10 or 11 foot planted median down the center of that piece of road. with I believe it is an extra wide multi-purpose lane that will allow both vehicular travel and bicycle travel to share the road without being impacting that much from one another. You're going to end up having curb and gutter and sidewalks on both sides of the road. And then later we will end up having Duke Energy work with us to install street lighting. You can see as it approaches the bridge and the roundabouts, each of the roundabouts there is some existing asphalt, and it's got a pattern, and I can't remember, I think it's a herringbone pattern and some asphalt, that pattern, and the asphalt has a stain color applied to it. This project is going to have a refresh of both of the patterns in these roundabouts. We're going to also wrap each of these roundabouts, curb, gutter, and then extend the sidewalk that you see. The sidewalk is actually going to be coming down on the south side of the roundabout at this point, and then cutting over to the north side to connect to the sidewalk on the bridge, and then it will continue on to the Concord Church roundabout that you see on the western side. During this time, the Williams Road stretch, there will be no left-hand turns, and then the traffic and the control of that is written into the plans of the contract itself. During working hour or high volume hours, like first in the morning and then evening, we'll have traffic that will probably be slowed down with construction in the rights of way. We do have key times of day in which they are to remove themselves to the right of way and not to impede traffic. Those are like first thing in the morning and afternoons, and I believe we have some times around when the school is starting up and letting out in the afternoon. Other than that, they will have to abide by limited start times. I believe it's maybe 7 in the morning and have to stop by around 6 o'clock in the evening. Anyone have any questions about this?
Hank, will we have the bike lanes striped off?
I don't think they'll be striped off. I hate to say it because I don't want to say it and be wrong, but I think that the lanes are going to be about 14 feet long, 14 feet wide from my memory on it. So that should be enough room for the car and the bicyclist to be able to both travel on the asphalt without getting in each other's way.
Since that is a potential, I don't want to say it's going to be a pretty good volume area because of the intersections. Is there any reason why we wouldn't consider going ahead and striping a bike lane?
I can ask about it. If it's not there, we can look at having an addition made after the contract is let.
Ms. Hunt, did you have a question?
Yeah, since we were talking about trees and things earlier, the trees that were selected, these are going to be, is it going to be concrete over it or just like regular dirt in the median area?
Median is going to be a grassed median, and it will have, I believe they're going to be crepe myrtles because they have particular trees that the DOT was going to allow for.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Franklin?
Yes, Hank, you were mentioning the hours when they shouldn't be in the right of way and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
I noticed that a lot of road projects occur during the nighttime hours.
Mhm.
And that particular stretch of road does not have very much residential people that would be disturbed during the night hours. Maybe some of this work could be done between, 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. I'm just throwing that out there for
Yeah,
whoever the contractor may be selected to have that option to do.
Specifications are quite specific at this point. We're going to have a hard time changing any of that.
Well, I was just throwing that out there.
I know, but if we get into sections where we have a particularly tough area that we have to work on, and it would be best to get the work done at nighttime, that is certainly an option that we can explore if it warrants it. I do have one more thing that Stacy provided me that, while I have it available, I'd like to share for the public, and forgot about it. This is the gateway element for the project. You can see in both of the pictures on the right side of your screen, you can see the gas station there at the top above the sign, and then on the bottom right-hand corner, you're on the, I guess, the north side, the direction of Boone 421 side. And then you can see each of these, the front elevations. These are going to replace the monolithic town of Louisville sign that we have out right now. So they're going to be essentially bookends. So as you cross the bridge and you enter through all the roundabouts and you come into the gateway, you're going to have these new gateway signs greeting you, in addition to the decorative lighting that we're putting in with Duke Energy and the plantings and landscaping. So I think it's going to look really good.
Dr. Sadler.
Yes, Ken.
Who did the design work on those? Is that the way, is that?
That's
just-
Kimley Horn.
So that's the way those signs will look?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Each
Unless we
one
wanna
has a
Have them
stone.
look another way.
I don't know. I mean, just first impression kind of thing. So I just need to look at them for a bit.
It'd be
And I would
nice to
say
have,
these are quite old, but there were 2 public input sections, and this gateway area got wide approval and I guess support from the public in attendance.
Ms. Welch?
I was just saying, it'd be nice to have a couple of choices, but according to what you just said, Hank, there were in the public had input.
We
Good.
went through a public input section where we showed what we were thinking about and got people's opinion.
But was there more than one option presented?
I believe so. I think there were 2 different variety that were given for people to peruse.
All right.
Question.
Ms. Foster, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, just Hank, if you could just, you mentioned that the visual aid that you showed was not exactly correct. Where can the public go? Usually we have projects online where folks can see the specific plans. Is there a plan to post this through our media?
There are plans on the website now for the purposes of bidding, but honestly, these are construction drawings and would not be discernible from the layman.
Mhm.
Well, I'm assuming by following up with Ms. Foster, I'm assuming that we will have something on our website that has the pretty pictures and all
We can put
the,
this up there, yes,
yeah,
but
that'd be great.
this was part of the visual aids that we went through for the public presentation.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, just, and again, because traffic is impacted, having folks see what the plan is, I think is an appropriate communication to the community.
When would you anticipate the final renderings would be available?
The final rendering.
Yeah, if what you've shown does not really depict what's going to actually be.
We don't have any more color as far as color pretty drawings. I can ask Kimley Horn if there was anything like that. The only thing we have right now is construction drawings that have been developed over the course of the last year in conjunction with the DOT.
Is what you've shown going to deviate significantly from what actually is going to occur?
As far as the public is concerned, they will see all they need to see from looking at the color visual aid that I just showed you.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Very good. Any other questions? Ms. Hunt?
I have one more question. You mentioned earlier that there was a waiver to allow Kimley Horn. What does that mean?
Well, in general terms, the North Carolina Department of Transportation tries to get you to get someone else to oversee the construction of the project. It is different from the designer. But in this case, in asking for it, they usually have a lot more concerns. And believe it or not, I know we talked about this project being estimated at $1.5 million, but this is a small project for them. So it was very easy. They didn't have a problem with our asking for Kimley Horn to be allowed to participate. What they don't like is extremely large projects where the designer is also the person that is overseeing the construction.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Very good. Next item, Hank, please.
Okay. If I can find where I was.
In-person meeting discussion.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's see if I can. Okay. You'll have to help me because I can't see my agenda. I took it down when I started showing that stuff. Wanted to discuss this evening the town getting back, at least from the council perspective, if not boards and committees as well, getting back to in-person. I think everyone is aware that with the changes recently with the state, they've lifted the requirements for indoor masks and social distancing. I think the big thing is going to be right now is we can let everybody back in the room just as we did prior to pandemic. And there is no requirement that we have anyone wear a mask, and we can get them shoulder to shoulder if you want. What I would like to do right now is to get the concurrence with the council that they are in fact okay with going back to in-person meetings starting in July with the council, the planning board, and boards and committees. And then if they see any reason to have any discussion of masks involved with coming in the building or social distancing of the seats.
Council members?
Question,
Ms.
please.
Walsh, yes, ma'am.
Hank, have you had any feedback from boards and committees about their thoughts on this?
No, you guys are the very first people I've had the opportunity to have the discussion with. The boards and committees have not met yet. Bo, are you ready?
The Board of Adjustment met last Tuesday, and was this past Tuesday. Can't recall now, time floating on to last Tuesday. And we met in person, and there were probably a handful of people there, maybe 7 or 8 in the audience. Everything ran smoothly. No one was masked. Everything seemed to go well.
Yeah. If I could offer my recommendation for it, I would have us go back to essentially what we were doing before. Put a sign on the door that says "Mask not required," and if you wanted to say anything about it, we could say recommended, but otherwise leave it up to the honor system for people attending the meetings. The other thing too is that we've been thinking about at staff level is that we could reduce the numbers of seats within the room itself and then force people to stay somewhat far away from each other. We know that pre-pandemic, we really didn't have a lot of occasion where we were going to fill up all the seats that we had in place. The reason we were thinking that is, honestly, it may not happen and we may be overthinking it, but if you had someone sitting in the room and you had a total stranger that came down and plopped down in a way that they felt uncomfortable or that the person was too close, you may introduce a time where somebody has to feel like they've got to get up and move. So if we kind of felt like we gave them already some space between them, let them pick it out, and that's it. I don't think the reduction in the amount of seating would impact the numbers of people that come to our meetings on a regular basis.
So,
Time as far as still 6 o'clock, is that what you're thinking?
That's you guys. We can go back to 7:30s on regular meetings, or we can keep everything at 6.
I would, my preference would be 6, but
Okay.
Mr. Franklin,
I would agree to go back to our regular schedule, which is briefing at 6 and regularly scheduled meetings at 7:30, especially if we're going to go live again. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Folks that are going to attend our meetings do not want to come to a 6 o'clock meeting in town hall. Okay. I mean, they're used to, the ones that attend our live meetings or come to the 7:30 meetings, you know. That's my point.
Okay.
Mr. Smitherman.
I would suggest that we stay at 6 like we are on the briefing, but on the council meeting, at least try to come to a medium and move it up so that we're not having our staff to stay here so late. I mean, they're here at 8 in the morning, and then most of the time they don't get a chance to go home and they have to stay here. And then when our meetings run late, that's even more time on them. I would really like to see that moved up, because if our meetings run long, I really don't want to be here at midnight.
Other thoughts, council members?
I think, what do you think of a compromise? Maybe 6:30 or 7. It does seem a little bit late, especially with how long our meetings are going with community center and everything else happening. How do you feel about that, Fred?
I'm willing to compromise, but 6 o'clock, every meeting that we've had for the last year has been a killer for me, trying to feed the cows, trying to get stuff done when I get home from work. Okay. I'm just saying. And if we go back live, y'all don't want to be meeting with me at 6 o'clock if I can't get a shower before I come to the council meeting, especially Melissa.
You're sitting next to her. So how about the rest of the council?
I
Any
like the
preferences?
idea, Jane, of a 6:30 compromise potentially, or 7. I think 7:30 is a little long with our meetings. And to David's point about the staff staying.
Do we know if that's an issue? I don't care one way or the other, but do we know if that's really an issue for staff? Or is that just something we believe is an issue for staff? Because we've been this way for almost 30 years. The other thing is the time that we meet, is this not really around people's dinner hour?
At 6 p.m., yes, it is.
Yeah, so, that's one of the, as I recall, that's one of the reasons that we set the meetings where we set them. But, I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other about it.
Hey, folks, what I like to suggest we also consider, and not being specific on the time, but just to eliminate confusion, if we could set the briefing time and the regular council meeting time at the same time. I have numerous people who always say to me, well, I was going to attend the briefing, but I got there at 7:30 and it was over with. Or I wanted to attend the council meeting and I got there at 6:30, you guys didn't start till 7:30. So there is some confusion. So whether it's 6:30 or 7, if we can just lay it in at the same time for both our briefing and our council meeting, that would be great. Any other thoughts?
No, I like the compromise idea. Since I haven't spoken up, I'll speak. And I think maybe, Ken, to your point, what was decided, what did you say? When the town first started 30 years ago, it just seems like there are so many more options. When someone wants to come in person, especially if there's a public hearing, making sure that we're accessible at the appropriate time is all I really care about. Otherwise, I'd like to support what Melissa initially laid out.
Council members, do we need to have a straw poll here? Let's start with maybe a compromise time. How many of you feel comfortable with? Yeah, I'm sorry, Ms. Hunt, go ahead.
Dr. Sadler had asked, or had wanted to know if that was some questions of the staff, if that really was if that's just a belief. Staff, do you mind, Hank, do you guys mind giving us an idea of how that is and from y'all's side?
Staff is going to get to these meetings and do whatever they need to do for what council wants to do. It would be hard to say a blanket statement for how all staff feels about a time or how hard it is for it.
So do you have a recommendation, Hank, on time?
No, I think probably given Ken and Ken's point of view and Fred's point of view, I would err on a compromise that was closer to 7:30 than 6, and probably go to 7 other than 6:30.
I'll go to 7 o'clock.
I'm comfortable with 7.
7's fine with me.
And that's an even time for briefing and council. I think that's workable.
Yeah. And I'd like to remind Jane, Ken, Mike, and myself that when we used to not have a briefing meeting. And then we decided to have a briefing meeting that was going to last an hour.
Right.
Get us ready for the council meeting the following week. And now we're having 4-hour meetings every time. I suspect when we get back together as a group and really get to know each other a little bit better, our meetings won't be as long as they are on Zoom. So I guess, I look forward to getting back in chambers.
7 o'clock. Are we have heads nodding? Anybody have objections to 7 o'clock? So 7 briefing, 7 council meeting. Very good. I see a lot of heads bouncing.
You might have to remind us when that comes.
That's right.
Just
retrain us.
Yeah.
One more thing about this, so I don't end up having any confusion later. When I say go back to the way we did it before, that is that way. I'm thinking about going to Channel 6 and Facebook Live during the regular meetings. And then other than that, we're just like we were pre-pandemic. Any thoughts?
So we would only be broadcasting our regular council meetings and our briefings wouldn't be. Is that what you're
That's correct.
suggesting?
Yes.
Thoughts, folks?
It's hard to go back now that we've been broadcasting the briefings. I mean, I understand that that was not the case before, but I've got some ambivalence around that.
I think what complicates it is we do some action items now at briefings.
Mhm. Good point.
Folks, what do you think? Ms. Smithern?
Since we're changing the time to 7 at the briefing, that would give anybody the opportunity to come that would view it. So if it meant, to me, if it meant enough to them to be there, I think we should at least just do the videoing on our regular scheduled council meeting.
Folks?
How complicated is it to have a hybrid?
Well, if we did videoing of both meetings, we would no longer be able to meet in the conference room upstairs for briefings. All meetings would have to be downstairs where we had the camera. And the technology for Zoom probably would end up having to have someone have a webcam attached to a laptop and be able to keep up with the meeting and make sure that any presentation materials were being displayed. So you're probably going to end up with an additional staff person to be in charge of monitoring the Zoom connection and making sure that the materials are being shared at the appropriate times.
Is there
Other than that, I don't know what, I think at this point, the video quality for Zoom is probably going to be very wide angle. We've played with it a little bit before when we were thinking about a hybrid. It's decent, but it's going to be a static shot of the group at its widest angle, trying just to get people in the frame and then being able to share materials on Zoom as they pop up before the council. So more labor intensive, yes.
Is there more expense associated with it?
No, other than the extra time, there is no more expense for Zoom.
How would we handle audio, Hank?
That's a bit of a tricky thing, and we haven't had a chance to test that out for it. You probably end up with Ed TV sticking up against the wall, and we did look at this as well, and trying to work things so that you don't end up having a lot of echo, because you're going to end up with Ed running Zoom in the corner and then a separate laptop running Zoom with a camera on it. And we know from history that if you have two computers in the same room, you have a lot of feedback and problems with each other.
Stacy, do you have something?
I did, and Bo, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I just have a question. I have never really thought about this, but if we were in person and somebody was on Zoom, for instance, would they be able to make public comment that way? Or if the person is, if we're in person, do people have to come to town? I mean, I know they have the option of written comments, but do they have to come to town hall for public comment? How does that work?
I hadn't thought about that. I don't think there would be anything to prohibit the council from hearing whatever it wanted to hear, however it wanted to hear it. The only time I would have concerns would be if we had applicants trying to appear via Zoom after we are meeting in person.
What
And
about for like
certainly
public hearings and stuff?
On the rare occasion when we had quasi judicial hearings, that's why we went back with Board of Adjustment meetings in person, was because of the cross-examination and swearing in folks and that sort of thing. What was the other thing you asked, Stacey?
Well, I was just talking about public hearings as well, if that would be different. I wasn't sure how all that worked out.
I think the public comment, even during public hearings, could be accepted via a remote participation from the public. We haven't talked about individual council members, but I think the assumption is that everybody will come in person. And go back to the old rare circumstance where the people could attend in a remote way.
Folks, where do you want to start out on this? I mean, we clearly will have some technical issues and some logistical issues.
Do we want to move forward just like we discussed and then have the option to continue to think about Zoom and incorporating it and not get hung up and
Yeah.
get in a ditch this evening about the issue?
Very good. That'll keep us from having a 4-hour meeting tonight.
Yes.
Okay,
And,
so we're resolved, folks. Briefing and council meeting same time, 7 o'clock, beginning in July
Yeah. And
and
then
in person.
I have another
Albert's got her
question
hand up
there.
here.
Yes, ma'am.
This is for Joyce and Joyce only, but the times are spelled out on the schedule on the calendar. So would that change need to be made? Hank, Bo, do you think?
Yes.
For
I think that
Joyce's
we
sake?
probably have to work out an update to the calendar for times and have council approve that probably next week. Good call.
And the
I'm just trying to
website,
look out for Joyce.
and the website, guys, any way we communicate to folks.
Right.
Very
So
good.
we're talking about the town council at 7 o'clock, and then all of the boards and committees would be in person at their normally scheduled times according to their charters and the town calendars.
Exactly. And the only meeting that we are doing live at this point, broadcasting will be the town council meetings.
That's correct.
That's for July.
Mhm.
Okay. Very good. I don't see any objection. Everybody good?
All right.
Hank, update on recreation events.
Yes, I sent you guys an email about this. I'm going to do this is more for the public as much as anyone here. I want to make sure that if I can find it. Oh yeah, hold on here. Don't need to do that. Okay, as everybody in this room on Zoom knows, we have revived our event season, and I also want to throw out a lot of praise and thanks to Stacy Howard. As I said in my email earlier this week to us, the governor's change came on the last day Stacy was here before she went on an extended vacation. She and I had a conversation about needing to jump on this and get it done quickly because everybody would start trying to fill dates and groups would go away fast. She spent a lot of her time. Now, she did not do this on her vacation time. We allowed her for work hours while she was doing this, putting this together. But she was able to get a head start on a wonderful event season that began on May 31st with our military appreciation concert with the Embers. Everybody that was there will know that was a great event. It went as far as having planned events honoring the veterans, and the band was great. And it wasn't just one of those things where the band got up there and played for 2 hours and left. I think everyone in attendance had a great time. So I'm going to go through the list right now. Some of this is in stone, some of it is tentative and is still awaiting contracts and other arrangements like insurance requirements. On Saturday, June 12th, we have the Ultimate Eagles Tribute Band on the Border. Will be in the park from 7 o'clock until 9 o'clock p.m. Moving on to Friday, June 18th at dark, we will have movie night. This will be Frozen 2. Saturday, July 3rd from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock, we're going to have Chicago Reloaded, REO, and Survivor tribute bands. If anybody knows, they're all music groups. And then we're also working that night with the American Legion for a tribute to Independence Day prior to the contract, and patriotic decorations will be done as well. And also we'll have kids artists who will be applying patriotic temporary tattoos. Moving on to, I will mention that on Friday, August 6th, we have another movie night planned. This will be featuring the 2019 Disney film Aladdin. Then Saturday, August 28th, 6 to 9 o'clock p.m., we're working to have Jukebox Rehab with opening act Jody Lee Petty. September 25th, 7 to 9, Trial by Fire. This is a Journey tribute band. This was brought to you at the urgings of our finance officer, Pam Morrell. She is a huge Journey band fan, and she needed that. And then lastly, on October 8th, we'll have movie night featuring Hocus Pocus. So again, my compliments to Stacy Howard. All of this is still, some of it's up, down, and some of it's still hanging out there, but she's got a couple of more things to go, but she's put together a great season in a very short amount of time. That's it. Anybody have any?
Question for 10 cent or diddly p or
Diddly P.
I'm just joking. That's not true. It's not true.
All right.
And Hank, you did say that while Stacy did was grand work hours, she was on vacation, and while
She
the rest of
was.
her family was out on the beach, Stacy was making phone calls and working. And so once again, as she has for many years, she demonstrated her real interest in caring for this town and making sure that we were on top of things. So Stacy, I know you're probably watching. Well done. We always appreciate you. Ms. Welch.
Yes, while we have a chance to brag on Stacy, you know, she's the first person somebody sees if they're new in town and they come into town hall, and she's a perfect person for that. So do pass along to her how much she's appreciated.
Very good.
Now,
Fred.
yes, Hank, if you know, if plans are still being made, if the schedule permit and it may work out, can we work some bluegrass in the fall time of the year?
That's already it's already in the planning, Fred.
Okay.
It's too tentative right now to bring it out.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Just as long as we could work some in the fall time of the year.
That is in the planning process now. It's just too up in the air right now.
Sounds great.
Okay.
That's fine.
Perfect. Thank you. Louisville, Vienna, Robin Hood Road roundabout.
Yes, we went through a simultaneous process at the same time we were accepting a CEI for the project. We went through a process where we selected a PE firm, and this is for the roundabout at Louisville, Vienna and Robin Hood Road. We had, 14 firms, Stacy and Ryan? We shortlisted to, I believe it was 4 or 5. That's right. 5. We had interviews for that. We got down to a top 2 and then selected again, Kimley Horn, who we have had a great working relationship with on the Gateway project. It was a tough selection. We had a lot of good firms for that. In both of this, for the CEI and the PE firm, what is going to happen next is that the engineering firm has to give basically a rate schedule to us that we have to have approved by the North Carolina Department of Transportation. Then once they have the agreement of the Department of Transportation, they're going to have a contract proposal that they will submit and negotiate with the town for time and hours. And then again, at some point we have to have the NCDOT take some time and go through that and give us their approval as well before we bring this to council for their approval. So we'll be moving as quickly as possible to have the PE work started, and PE is the engineering work on the project. And we will push this to have this project done for completion as far as the engineering and design as soon as we can. And then lastly, it's not on your list, but it came up at short notice. I do want to give everybody a heads up. You've heard me talk about the email switchover, and here's basically what it is. I'll boil it down to you for what you need to remember. The email as you know it right now through Windstream, if you're going into the web interface or you're downloading onto a PC or your phone, that is going to survive as long as around 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Monday. When that happens, that email goes away and it is switched over to Microsoft Office 365, which will again be a cloud-based portal. I'm going to be assigning all of you new passwords, and then I will go ahead and I'll send you an email with the link that you will go to go on and to be able to check your email. Your email addresses will not change, and I will give you the passwords to be able to access the accounts. If anybody wants to use their phones or their laptops to access email, talk to me. I will give you the instructions as well for that. Okay.
So we'll have a new server that we'll have to put in for our incoming and outgoing.
It is. We'll have a new server. I've done my best to harvest everyone's emails from their existing accounts, creating backup files that we will be uploading to Microsoft Office 365. I apologize if I don't capture everything. My goal is to capture 100% of the emails, And, but hopefully we won't lose anything. We'll probably have a brief time in which we might have somebody write you an email that it gets bounced back to them, but we're going to work as fast as we can to make sure that the emails has no downtime or dead time between that switchover.
And when is this happening? I missed that at the very beginning.
The current email is going to come to an end at 5 o'clock on Monday, and then 8 o'clock on Monday morning, we'll be able to use the Microsoft Office 365.
You
Okay.
mean Monday and Tuesday?
I'm sorry, Monday at 5 is the end, and then Tuesday at 8 is the beginning. Thank you, Ken.
I have another question.
Yes.
We are prohibited from eliminating or deleting email that might have public relevance. So when you do this, you'll be preserving all that information, so nobody here would be at risk for, I guess, spoliation. But I can't remember.
I will have the emails back up as they existed at the time that we were uploaded. I will not have any changes that will be carried forward past Tuesday morning.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So yeah, I will say that being able to track that information and keep it should be easier on Microsoft Office 365. The only thing, and I don't want to take a lot of time up with council, is as far as emails go, if it's just an email with somebody said, hey, let's meet at 5 o'clock, that is not a public record. You have to have something that has some business to it, whether or not it's got a document attached. But if it's just coordinating, getting together, that's not an issue. Just be careful of what you get rid of. It's more town business related. That's all I'll say about it. I can answer questions on the sideline a lot more in depth.
Okay.
Okay.
Quick question, please, Hank.
ma'am.
Save you some phone calls maybe. So as my understanding, at 8 o'clock, you'll be sending us a new password
Mhm.
and we will have to log in on a site or, is that it? Yeah, go ahead.
What I'm trying to do, ma'am, is by 5 o'clock tomorrow, if I get it all worked out, I will send each of you an email with the web address for where you will go to check your email. And I will provide you the password as well. Your email address will be the same as it is now.
Okay.
And you'll have that now. You'll just need to know that that's not going to be something that you'll need to worry about using until Tuesday morning and up until Monday afternoon at 5. Just continue as you are.
Okay, so, but each time we check it, we have to go to a web address.
You can, but there is a way where I can put this on your phone as well, because I know.
Okay,
because you
that's
want-
right. I'd love to do that. All
we can
right,
do that.
I'll be in touch about that.
Okay.
And Hank, I know you do, one
Yes,
quick question. So did I hear you correctly? So effective Tuesday morning, it should be seamless for us is the bottom line.
Hopefully that's the case. Yes.
Access what previous emails that we might have sent out or archived or whatever, correct?
I've been doing backups of everyone's emails off of Windstream on a regular basis. I will be backing them up until late in the afternoon on Monday. And then when the changeover happens, I will probably start importing your backups into your 365 even before you check it on Tuesday morning.
Thank you.
Okay.
Very good. Any other questions? Stacy, you have something for us on Parks and Rec and Cultural Development Master Plan upgrade.
Yes, our consultants are working hard, getting us lots of reports for the stakeholder meeting that happened, the first public involvement meeting that took place in May. And then most recently this week, the survey closed and we had 866 participants in the survey.
Wow.
That created 34,734 data points, which is like answering questions. And then 2,988 written comments. So they really feel like they got some good data and some good feedback. And they have already started analyzing that data and will be getting reports to us soon. So that project is moving right along. The next available public involvement meeting will be in August. So keep your eyes and ears open, and we'll be getting information out about that soon.
Ms. Welch.
Yes, Stacey, I was wondering how the rest of the council felt if somebody from that consulting firm could come to our council meetings for any kind of questions concerning the survey and just an update, an in-person thing. I think that
I
would just.
can see, I don't know, I'll look and see how many meetings was in the contract for them to attend. But I can reach out to them and ask that of them.
Okay, because I had a couple of questions. And for example, when I took the survey, I found that it was a little bit hard to read. It was written in script and kind of small. And then I think of, our older residents, and I think probably the majority of respondents may be from those who have the time to respond from there. And some of the questions too, to me, were not real clear, or maybe not so pertinent to Louisville. And, just like some clarification to
Okay.
keep fine tuning it more or less.
Anyone else? Very good. Ms. Hunt, yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I'm a little bit delayed on my hand raising this evening. Yeah, Stacy, I think that I would second, or not second, but I would agree with Jane. And just if we could get ahead, or someone that could come in on a video conference or something, or even if it was outside of cancel hours, just to kind of give us an opportunity to see the progress and hear from them directly, that would be great.
Anyone else? Very good. Thanks, Stacy. You also have a request from our planning board.
Yes, we have had a request from the planning board chair that I reach out to council and talk to you guys about going, and I don't know that this would necessarily still apply since this request was made when we didn't know that we were going to be able to go back in person. So we will be having another meeting next week, and I can clarify with them to see if that is still the request. But the planning board chair asked if the planning board would be able to return to streaming their meetings live on Facebook, and asked that I ask council their thoughts on that for if the planning board would be allowed to do that.
Stacy, you used the term returning to streaming their meetings on Facebook.
Well, if you recall, when we first started, right before the council adopted the, policy for who was going to be able to stream and who wasn't. And I think that's when it was decided that only the council would stream their regular meetings live on Facebook, just like they did when we were meeting in person. So right before that, there were a few meetings that were streamed live on Facebook, and for some other reasons that was stopped. And then the council adopted the policy on that. But since then, they have requested, or the planning board chair requested that if they would be able to go back to that.
And we were streaming basically just because of the restrictions, public restrictions from the pandemic.
Yes.
Yeah, because we weren't streaming our meetings prior to that.
No, only council. No board or committee had ever streamed live on Facebook before.
Yeah. Ms. Hunt?
What was the basis of the request, Stacy? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I think it was mentioned just to try to reach more people or give more people an opportunity to view our meetings. We don't have a big attendance on Zoom for our planning board meetings unless there's something pertinent on the agenda, like a controversial case or something like that. But I think that was mainly the request, to just try to get more information, to be more visual, I think, to residents.
Yeah, comment.
Ms. Hunt, did you have something else?
I'll pass over to Jean
Okay,
Marie.
Ms. Foster.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure I watched that meeting. And as I recall, help me out, Stacey. I know Stacey and Bo obviously were there, but yeah, I understood that it was about that, just providing access. And going back to even before Stacey was around, I can remember Tom often talking about, it'd be really nice if we could, broadcast our planning board meetings. We've got a lot of things that are pertinent to the community, et cetera. So before COVID, before Zoom, that was something that was discussed at the planning board level way back. So that's just additional context I can provide. And other than that, I'll leave it to the group.
Stacy, was there any vote on this or any motions for this particular?
No, it was just a little discussion, and they asked that I bring it to council to make that request.
Some of the, I may have a little bit different take on it. One of the reasons that we appoint our boards and committees is to, so to speak, shield them from public pressure. They are not elected, they're appointed, so it gives them the insulation to have the discussions and do the deliberations and make the decisions that they need to make without fear of reprisal from a mad electorate. We've always made council kind of that public body where decisions that come from council or from committees or boards, that's where they begin to take clarity and really are at the point where we're ready to act on them. As we remember, any committee or board recommendation is just that, it's a recommendation. And I would be cautious that one may presume that a action recommended by a committee or board was indeed a fait accompli, where in fact all those things come to the board or come to the council first, and that's when they really take clarity and oftentimes change. So I think for a number of reasons, and plus the equity, if we were to say, okay, well, let's do the planning board, then let's do the beautification committee, and let's do the parks and rec. So I think there's an equity issue there, and that was another reason why we really only made the council meetings live broadcast. But that's the historical perspective. That doesn't mean we have to continue to do it that way, but I felt that they were pretty valid reasons for establishing that policy in the first place. Ms. Hunt.
Thank you, Mayor, for your perspective. I'm in agreement with that perspective. I think also I would be curious to know a little bit more of the basis behind it, Stacy. I hear what Jean Marie mentioned and what you mentioned, if there would be any, and then also just the congruency or the collaboration between all of the members of that particular board coming together and being in agreement that, I think that I'm not comfortable with the Facebook simply because I feel like the equity piece is important. And the public is pretty vocal and probably expects us to have some kind of conversation back and forth, a two-way conversation in a Facebook during during their meetings. I think that that's happened in the past is my understanding. And I'm not sure that that's how we want the committees to have the public into the meeting through Facebook.
So that your observation, I think, deserves a little amplification. In some of those meetings, when we did have Facebook dialogue occurring, there was an abundance of misinformation that occurred, and a number of people drew their conclusions about the topic based upon misinformation that was presented by people other than board members. So, I just think we have to be cautious about how the forms in which we disseminate information, make sure they're as accurate as possible. Dr. Sadler.
Isn't the answer tonight, we can't resolve this? And we really haven't even resolved how we're going to address council meetings and briefings. We decided to defer that. I just think we ought to defer this and have more discussion if it's necessary, or stay with our historical process.
I agree with Ken.
Very good. Let's keep it on the table to talk about once we figure out what we're doing. Excellent.
I will report back to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Pam, you have a reminder for us, a reminder of my reminder?
Yes, just a reminder, there's a budget meeting after this meeting.
Good.
Okay. Yeah, did Pam, did she say a budget or a bunch of? It sounded like a bunch of meetings.
Okay.
Just one.
Moving on to our agenda for next week. Obviously, we have the traditional items on the consent agenda. Pam, I always ask you this question, and you generally always respond the same way. We have no surprises in our financials.
No, everything looks good.
She's going to surprise you one day.
Yeah, she's going to say we were able to obtain a 6% interest rate on our fund balances, so that we were really beginning to generate some interesting money. We will have a presentation, or actually an introduction by PJ. We have a new deputy that's going to be joining us, and he'll introduce the deputy at that point. He'll also do his traditional or his regular sheriff's office report. Ms. Welch, I think it's exciting because each week, each meeting, PJ delves into his interesting facts and figures file to see if he can't come to us with something new and enlightening. So he's enjoying doing that. Hank, we're down to the public hearing on the budget. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Let me see if I can catch up here. Okay, yes. Next week, we're going to do the public hearing on the budget. And as a part of that, I will give everyone the sort of a synopsis of my budget message as it has, as it reflects the budget after the council deliberation on it. And that's it. If everyone is in good shape with it, we'll be in the position to be able to approve it next week as well.
No, we
Well,
won't, Hank. It
Oh,
will
I'm
actually
sorry,
be-
you're correct. We will be under the pandemic rules, and then we have already set a date for June 14th, the following
June
month.
14th. So that'll be a special meeting to approve the budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Very good. Pam, Stacy, you have the first one on the new business.
Yes,
Oh,
this is,
Excuse me, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to add under old business for next week, a board and committee report.
Excellent.
So please,
Excellent. Excellent. And that's something you've been working on. And so we'll have an update on that.
Yes. And some
So
information.
if we'll please note, then let's add under old business an update on board and committee work
Thank you. Report.
report.
Mhm.
Report. That's different than an update. That's like the big banana. I'm excited. Okay. Stacy,
yes.
on the UDO compliance with the North Carolina General Statute 160D.
We have been working on this, and thanks to Bo for all of his help with this very large text amendment. But this is resolution 2021-038 for next week for you guys to set a public hearing. The date for that public hearing would be July the 8th for the regular meeting. And if we're in person, then there will not be a need to set a follow-up date because we won't have to wait the 24 hours since we'll be meeting in person. We won't have to do follow the electronic guidelines anymore. But I went ahead and put all of the text amendment as well as the staff report in your packets for this evening. I wanted to go ahead and get the information to you as early as I could because it is such a large text amendment. If you read through the staff report, you can see the highlights. I have listed the major changes that are in that staff or that take place in the document and kind of explain those a little bit. And so next week, if you have any questions in regards to any of those specifics, I can definitely be prepared to answer any of those. But I will say that all of these are requirements and mandated by General Statute 160D. And the staff report explains that a little bit too. It gives the background of changing from 160A to 160D and the reasonings behind that. So there's nothing extra in there, any other extra changes. It's all simply changes that are required for us to do to be in compliance with 160D.
Very good. We'll hear about that next week. Hank, you'll have our budget ordinance.
That is correct. We will have the budget ordinance for approval. And that will be, of course, done on the 14th, along with a lot of the ordinances and resolutions that you see following that Pam will go over. But they're all related to the budget. We have to all do all this on the 14th as well.
Very good. Pam, you have the next 9 items, and they generally just want to give us an overview of what we're doing with these.
Yes, I'll keep it brief. As Hank said, the rest of these ordinances and resolutions are all contingent on council passing the budget on June 14th. So they'll all be voted on afterwards. The first one is ordinance 2021-029, and this is to close the Stormwater Capital Reserve Fund. And remember, we talked about that at the last budget meeting. as far as the amount that's still in the stormwater reserve, we have approximately $405,000 still left in the reserve. And at your request, I've designated in the document that you'll vote on that will transfer $170,000 to the municipal buildings and land capital reserve. And then the remainder of the funds will be transferred to the newly created Public Works Facility Capital Reserve Fund. So
Any
any
questions for
questions
Pam?
about that one?
Very good. Next item.
Okay, the next one is ordinance 2021-030, and this is authorizing the establishment and maintenance of the Public Works Facility Capital Reserve Fund. And the way I wrote up the ordinance, the fund will remain operational for a period not to exceed 10 years, beginning July 1st, 2021 and ending June 30th, 2031, or until the Capital Reserve Fund reaches a balance of $1 million. And I've also designated that the town council will appropriate or transfer an amount of no less than $95,000 each year from the general fund to this fund.
Any questions on our Public Works Reserve? Next item.
Next is ordinance 2021-032. This is amending the municipal buildings and land capital reserve fund. When we set up the capital reserve fund, it's set up by ordinance. And anytime there's any change in that reserve, whether we transfer money in or transfer money out, or suspend a general fund transfer during budget, we have to document that in the ordinance itself. So this particular amendment to the ordinance is actually documenting three things. First of all, we're documenting that we did transfer $997,788 to the Community Center Capital Project Fund from the reserve. Secondly, we're going to document that the Municipal Buildings and Land Capital Reserve is going to receive $170,000 from the Stormwater Capital Reserve that's going to be closed out. And then thirdly, we're going to document that the normal transfer from the general fund of $170,000 that we make every year is going to be suspended in the upcoming budget year, ended 2022. So any questions about that?
Very good. Next item.
All right, the next items are actually our annual contracts. And we did go over all of these contracts during the budget talks at various parts as we came across them. So I'm just going to hit on them briefly. The first one is our town hall janitorial contract. And it is a 3-year contract. And the first year ended June 2022. The contract amount is $8,150. For the next year ended 2023, the amount is $8,500 per year to clean the town hall. And then for the year ended 2024, the amount will be $8,650 to clean the town hall. And this is with Executive Cleaning. I'm sorry, the same company that we use now. Are there any questions about that one?
And those increases were just what we would consider to be normal market increases.
Normal increases, yes, they were not significant.
Okay. Any questions?
And Pam, that doesn't include the new community center, does it? Is that going to be?
This is just town hall, just to
Just
clean the
town
town hall.
Okay, next item, please.
The next item is our contract with Executive Cleaning, and this is to clean the old community center and the bathrooms at Shallowford Square, the bathrooms at Jack Warren Park, and also to clean our annex. And all of this is done 5 days a week. And the dollar amounts for those for the upcoming budget year, the amount is $14,544 for the year. Second year, it's a 3-year contract. The second year will be $15,420, and the third year will be $15,876.
Any questions? Next item.
The next one is the contract with Sir Speedy to print our newsletter. And the newsletter specifies 5,700 copies. We did up the number of copies because our number of households is constantly growing. And the amount of that contract is $13,377 for the year.
Very good.
The next contract is to install Christmas decorations, and this is with Elite Landscaping, and they've been doing this for us for years. The contract amount is $12,100.
Any questions?
I do have a
question.
quick, yeah, I do have a
Go
quick
ahead,
one.
Fred.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Fred.
Elite, this is the ones on the light poles, correct?
The light poles and in the square, yes.
Yeah. This is not at town hall. This is separate from, okay, thank you.
Yeah, we'll use a different company to decorate the exterior of Town Hall,
That's what I was thinking that we did. Yeah,
and
thank you.
probably the new community center as well. So. Jane, did you have a question?
Yes, so the decorations that go on the street poles, are they changed periodically?
Ryan and Hank, do you want to address that?
Well, we changed some out on Louisville, Vienna this last year, but we've been traditionally I think we went through a change 2 years ago when we added the angels to the decorations, but up until then, we have been using the Christmas wreaths that you see up and down Shelford Road.
I'm just thinking in the past, I thought it was every 5 years they changed.
I wasn't aware of that process, and I've been here over myself going on 9 years, so I'm not aware that it has been changed in the last 5 years.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I disagree with that, but
Next item, please.
The next contract is with John Hanna at Ecologic, and this is for the maintenance of our town shrubs, trees, and flower beds. And it will be a 3-year contract. The first contract amount for the upcoming year is $56,900. And if you recall from our budget talks, that is a decrease from what we're actually paying right now. And then there will be 3% increases each year beyond that. The second year will be $58,607, and the next year after that will be $60,365.
And that includes materials like mulch and all the types of things, the
Pine
soil.
straw, everything,
Yeah.
yes. Mhm. Okay, the next contract is with Speedy's Lawn Care, and this is for our snow and ice removal. And he did agree to a 3-year contract, and he is going to hold his rates the same as they are right now. And if you're curious as to what that is, it's $225 per hour per plow truck and $75 per hour per supervisor vehicle.
Any
And
questions?
lastly, the last contract is with Yards by Us, and this is for our grounds maintenance. And they held all of their rates the same, with the exception of the monthly fee that we pay for the grounds maintenance. And they did agree to a 3-year contract, and they are going to hold the rates the same for all 3 years. And so the annual maintenance of the grounds is going to be a total of $45,800. And then they will charge us hourly rates for certain other items. And that's all attached to the contract for your review, and it's also listed in the resolution.
Question, Pam and Ryan, I don't know if you want to be part of this answer, but we do have multiple cleaning contracts with the same company. Is there a reason why that's not consolidated all into one?
It was really a timing issue. We've always had a town hall janitorial contract with executive cleaning. And I believe in the middle of the year, this current fiscal year, we initiated the contract for the other 4 locations. And that's just, we've just kind of stuck with that.
Okay.
We can look in the future if we want to consolidate them to one. Well, that may make more sense.
Okay, very good. Any other questions for Pam? Pam, thank you very much. It's a lot of work that we're going to be doing next week to move stuff around, get ready for the new year. Okay. With the addition of the old business item where we're going to get a report on boards and committees, There have been no other changes or additions to the agenda. If there are no more, Mr. Franklin.
Yes, I got Mike, excuse me, Mayor, seems to me in my memory, last year, these resolutions like this, that Pam has just went over, that we went ahead and approved them via our Zoom meeting, and then made them like contingent upon approving the budget. There's some recollection there. Does anybody recall that, or am I out in the weeds on that? Where this stuff was taken care of before we would come back to the meeting on the 14th to approve the budget after the public hearing. I mean, and I just recall that for some reason, and I may be really off base there.
Pam?
I think they were tentatively approved before the budget was approved. You could do it that way if you want to. I think it's also just as easy to quickly approve all of them after the budget is approved.
Okay, I just was, for some reason, I thought we did that last year.
Yeah, and we did. And I'm
Okay.
not sure why we did that last year.
I'm not sure either, but I recall that.
Remember.
Ms. Foster.
Yeah, so I don't have anything on this item that Fred brought up, but I want to go back to 160D. Are we done with Fred's point?
Mr. Franklin says yes.
Okay, so I apologize. I should have brought this up earlier, but just before we approved the agenda. So looking through the staff report, Stacy, this is for you, and actually Bo, for you too. I just want to make sure it's explicit because I don't see it anywhere. Technically, we are supposed to be, from my understanding with reviewing material that I've been reviewing with the School of Government, just on my own research, July 1st of 2021 is the date we are supposed to adopt the 160D. Could you just, with us actually having the hearing or doing our business in July and spilling past July 1st, could you just speak to that, Bo?
Yeah, well, that is a technical requirement there, because we don't have anything pending right now. There are no impacts from that. The alternative would have been to have another special meeting to handle this and rush it, but we wanted to get all this together, but we don't have anything pending that's going to be affected by any delay in getting this done. So this will not cause any legal issues for us.
Okay. Thank you.
And Stacy and I had this discussion. We talked about that, and if there were to have been something that might have been impacted by the delay, we were going to have to begin to consider something that would have been considered in a different way under 160D. We would have scurried along, but this is just more in the ordinary course of how we're moving along.
Right. So there was an original date that this was due, and then because of all of these other external circumstances, it was pushed back. And so you're comfortable that what we're doing in July is consistent or at least acceptable legally, being past the July 1st, 2021.
Yes, because there are no consequences. There's nothing pending.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Foster, while we're going back and revisiting the past here, we had in previous council meetings, we've had discussions about moving forward rapidly with some type of definitions for human scale and pedestrian friendly and a number of those things, which caused us a bit of a heartburn on this last zoning issue. Stacy, can you give us any indication at all? And the reason I'm bringing this in, while we're at a pause and stuff coming before us, can you give us any indication on how quickly we can expect something like that from the planning board?
Yes, we have been working on that for probably the last 3 months worth of meetings, and we're getting closer. We're about elbow deep in changes to our downtown overlay and the requirements for those. We're looking at adding some, not necessarily definitions, but just clarifications on what requirements have, or what structures would be required to look like, or what they would be required to meet in the event that, as far as the buildings that are next to them, the scale versus the buildings that's proposed and the buildings nearby. and looking at adding some regulations that would require some variations in architectural features to kind of break down the mass of a building. We're looking at those things. We're looking at new buffer requirements in the downtown overlay, around the border of the overlay, in the event that they abut a property that's not considered in the downtown overlay. And then we're also looking at some changes to the parking requirements, and taking a look more extensively on the credits and how when they should be applied, and that type of thing for off-street and on-street parking and those types of things. So there is another draft that is ready that is going to them next week, and in hopes that in the next month or so, we would be setting public hearings in order for it to get to council shortly thereafter.
Great. Appreciate that. Your expedient work on that is appreciated, of course. Ms. Foster, did you have something? No? Okay. Very good. So council members, with that addition to the agenda, if there are no other changes, we'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda for next week. Ms. Welch makes the motion. Dr. Sadler makes the second. Any additional discussion? I'm sorry, Jane, you're muted, Jane.
Yes, I had another possible agenda item to add, wanted to bring up quickly. I
Yes, ma'am.
noticed one day last week and just walking around the square, on the back of our town square clock is a in memoriam with different names listed. And what I did notice, there was not Dan Jennings' name on that board. And now, of course, he was a council member. He did die several years ago, but the whole Jennings family has really been a big part of Louisville. Now, there were other names on there from the past that were even school board that maybe helped with incorporation of Louisville, like Tom Boss, maybe perhaps a civic club member. So it seems like we need to have some type of committee to come up with what the requirements would be, and in a timely manner when someone like Dan has passed. Who would that go to establish those requirements and eligibility for?
Boy, Jan, that's really a great question. And, not having Dan inscription on the monument is clearly an oversight. And that's something we can jump on immediately, Ryan, in getting Dan Jennings added and all that, because that's clearly important. But your other point is what is the criteria for being listed on that? And that's a really good question. I think Ms. Walker may have some insight on that, because at one point we did develop criteria with who could be considered for inclusion. And in her steel trap mind, she will know exactly where that document is and what it said and what the resolution was reached by council. But it's certainly worth revisiting. So maybe, Hank, if you can make sure that we hope Joyce has a speedy return. And when she does, maybe that can be one of the things that she pulls off quickly. I know it's documented someplace. Mr. Franklin?
Yeah, Mayor, I concur with what you're saying. I do remember when the memorial itself was initially installed with the town square, and the back side, if you will, was designed, or that was going to be dedicated to folks who had served Louisville in various capacities, that there were some guidelines that was established at that point in time. And I would suggest that since this particular thing sits in a parks area, if you will, our Parks and Recreation Board take a look at that particular issue to start with, instead of establishing somebody else, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But there are some guidelines. I concur with you on that.
Great.
And I assure you, Miss Walker can find them. I cannot as quickly as she can.
And nobody else who's been in her office has a chance of finding them either. So, okay. Very good. Very good. So we'll move that forward. Fred, I think that's a good suggestion to engage them. Ms. Hunt?
Once we're ready to move on, I had a question about just scheduling. I saw on my calendar, June 14th is when we're going to come back together, but I also noticed that there was a Park and Recs meeting scheduled that evening. Is that something that we need to be aware of, or what were the plans for that, Hank?
No, what we generally do when we get into that situation is to talk to the Parks and Rec or any committee that has a conflict about rescheduling. and we'll pick another date that's agreeable for everyone that is not in conflict with council or any other group, or the group has the option to postpone it a week or even longer. We've dealt with this recently already.
Thank you.
Very good. We do have a motion on the floor in a second to approve the agenda. Any other discussion? Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Ah,
Mr. Smitherman.
Aye.
Mayor's aye. That's unanimous. Thank you very much.
No, it's not.
Oh, Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
It is now unanimous. Thank you.
Versailles office building.
Folks, is there anything else that we would like to discuss this evening? As we mentioned before, we will be going into a closed session. And then following that closed session, we will be coming out and having the final meeting on our budget. So anything else to discuss before we go to the closed session? Ryan, yes, sir.
I think that bulky is completed finally after 7 weeks. So
That's good news.
well, it's not good news, but it's news.
Okay. Well, very good. I know you've been working hard on that and been riding that horse pretty
Yep.
steady.
And they promised me it's going to be better in the fall. I think it's October 11th is the next one. I've insisted that there's 2 trucks and they're larger trucks. Somehow they got stuck with a small truck and they had had personnel issues, truck issues. Really, there's no excuse for it, but they're going to do better next go around. So I apologize to the residents that it took that long.
Very good. Well, thank you, Ryan. We appreciate you bird dogging that one for us for sure. Folks, if I might, I'd like to share something with you. We've talked about the appropriate plaque for recognizing Mary Alice Warren in the community center. And this is kind of what I have in mind. It's a raised etched plaque. Now, obviously it's not going to have that many words, but this is the kind of style that we're thinking about and talking through. But I wanted to get council's thoughts on it as we are. It's really exciting. We're getting ready to the point where we need to order it because we're going to have a fireplace to put it on here pretty soon. Any thoughts, folks?
So is this in addition to or in lieu of the portrait?
Yes, this is in lieu of.
Okay.
And actually the photo we have that we'll be working from is a shot of her and Jack. And so it'll be kind of it was difficult finding one where we had both of them in the picture, but I think we found one that's gonna work real well.
Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
I love this idea. I think it's fantastic. My only thought would be, and you may have mentioned this before, larger picture, smaller word, bigger words, but not as much text.
Absolutely.
If at all possible.
Yeah. Very, very little, you can say a lot with a few words if they choose the right words. Yeah.
Mayor,
And any other thoughts, council members?
just a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Remind me, I think you might have addressed this before, but I don't recall it specifically. Did you were getting permission or you were working with a family and making sure that the picture that we were using is okay with them or?
Yeah,
Right.
really the only person who needs to okay it is frankly Mary Alice.
Okay, that's all.
And she's the one who provided the shot that we're going to be working with. Yeah.
I think you mentioned that. Thank you.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you. Well, then we'll proceed and have a really nice dedication when we do the community center. Something else to consider, council, is we're approaching a time when I'm hoping that Fairwoods can give us a date when we can do the grand opening. So we're going to want to form probably a committee of the council to talk about how to handle that grand opening and what we should be doing and how we make it an appropriate celebration for the addition that it's going to be for the town. So that's upcoming here probably in the next month.
I think you have that subcommittee.
Well, we do. Well, actually, it's construction approval subcommittee. It's a group that has been together to kind of approve those minor changes that don't need to come back before the council. So this will be I'm hoping those same people will serve, and we'll see how it goes. Very good. If there's nothing else, we will,
I have a question.
yes, sir, Doctor.
Is there an update on the bench and tree memorials? How's that going?
Let's
Okay.
see, we approved the policy last month. I think that's correct. Someone tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, but has anybody actually?
No, I've had people verbally tell me that they want to go ahead and get in line for some trees, but I haven't seen any action yet. And I think we have yet to put the information up on the website too, unless I'm mistaken. But given that Joyce and Jeannie were on it, it would not surprise me if it happened and it just was in the background.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Trees are planted though and benches are installed?
No, benches are not installed yet. We have a plan for it, but now we are up. Now we're getting closer to fuller staff position here. We're going to be in the position where we're going to be able to start putting in the benches. I think a lot of that is in the fiscal new year, right, Ryan? We've got concrete pouring for the benches. So after July 1st, we'll see the installation started on those.
And we're figuring out ways to water the freshly planted trees, right? Because it's been awfully dry. Ryan nodded his head. That's very good. Thank you.
Yes, that's correct.
That's good. Bo, if there's nothing else from council members, will you go ahead and lead us into our closed session?
Yes, sir. The motion would be pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-31811A3 to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged.
Very good. Council members, may we have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Okay.
Ms. Welch makes the motion.
I'll second it. I
Mr.
don't know
Franklin
why.
makes the second. Very good. All those in favor, Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Aye.
Dr. Sadler,
Aye.
Mr. Smithman,
Aye.
Mayor's aye. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not anticipate any additional council action this evening when we come out of closed session. But again, just a reminder that we will continue on with our final budget meeting, finishing up our preparation for presentation of the budget in July actually in June. Yeah, we are back into open session.
What time? 8:03.
8:03. Okay, so I'll hang out here until we go back live, but if folks who want to take a, say a 8 minute and 30-second break, let's do it. Our final budget council discussion for the 21-22 budget of the town of Louisville. It should be a very short meeting. Let me do a quick roll call as we're required to do. Ms. Welch?
Here.
Ms. Foster?
That's it.
Ms. Hunt?
Here.
Mr. Smithman?
Here.
Mr. Franklin?
I'm here.
Dr. Sadler?
Here.
Mayor's here also. We're all in attendance. Folks, we have one item on the agenda, which is just an open discussion of the budget and a final review that Hank will lead us through. Are there any other additions that you would like to discuss tonight related to the budget?
Mayor.
Ms. Hunt, yes, ma'am.
Just for procedural purposes, so if we have some questions or thoughts about particular, at what point do we bring that up?
Just as soon as we adopt the agenda, then that will be in an open discussion.
Thank you.
We can do it then, sure. If there are no other changes, we'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda for this evening. Mr. Smithman makes the motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Franklin makes the second. Any additional discussion? Very good. Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Mr. Smithman,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin.
Aye. Dr.
Sadler.
Aye.
Mayor's aye. We have our agenda for this evening. Hank, do you want to start our discussion on this?
Yeah, I want to say that I'm going to turn this over to Pam fairly quickly. We've got some adjustments that we want to bring forward to the council that we have made internally to the budget, and I'll let Pam review that and the reasonings for it.
I guess that's your introduction, Pam.
Okay. We actually only have two adjustments we'd like to propose. The first one has to do with the reservation software, the online reservation software that we've been looking for. Joyce has mostly been working with this, and I think Hank as well, but I think that we have settled upon some software from a company called Rec Desk. And we had originally included in the budget an amount of $3,000 as an annual fee for reservation software, and that is in line with the quote that they gave us. However, there is going to be a one-time fee of $1,200, and this is for the data import and conversion and basically the setup to get us up and running. And so I would like to add $1,200 to the budget that Hank had proposed a few weeks ago. Are there any questions about that?
Hank, we will have, Pam, we will have, this will be a reoccurring $3,000 fee.
I believe it will. Isn't that correct, Hank?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay. And this can be used for all of our facilities, Shaliford Square,
Yes.
Jack Warren Park, the community center.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Very good. Ms. Hunt?
How much staff dedication time does that reduce by implementing this software?
Immensely. Otherwise, it was going to end up being hand entry by someone, probably a staff level on each individual address. We've got the database for the addresses for being inside town. You give this, and then that culling for the addresses would be done for that $1,200 fee. Maintenance in the future would be done as we add neighborhoods in, and that would be much simpler. If we have a new neighborhood that's got 3 or 4 streets in, we'd put the streets by name in there, put the address numbers in, and then we would be fine. So it would be just a piecemeal addition as we move forward and have new neighborhoods or residents that come into town.
And Hank, remind me, what does the software need the resident addresses for?
In town versus out of town for rental is one thing that we end up using. So we have a different rate structure that if you're an in-town resident versus out of town.
Okay. And the usage of the software system every month, the online reservation system, that's going to save staff substantial time for data entry, or is it just?
What we're going to end up doing is people will be able to self-select their facilities, be able to see the description of the facilities, the pictures, and then eventually we'll be working to the system where people would go on, be able to access the system to make the reservations and the payments online using credit cards.
Thank you.
Very good. Without objection, Pam, I think you can add that.
Okay, and then the last adjustment relates to our grounds maintenance contract with Yards by Us, and we talked about that a while ago. When we had our last budget meeting, we were working off of a quote that we had received from Yards by Us. Since then, we have learned that we needed to actually add some additional work to that contract, so we did ask them to re-quote it, and I'm going to let Ryan talk about that.
Yeah, so that work is at 324 Louisville Vina, the property that my father and my aunt donated. I'll show you. I'll share my screen so if you all don't know where we're talking about. Sorry, I about got choked up there. Can you all see that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there's 12 acres there. It's roughly about 1.5 acres. The blue lined area is roughly where the grassed area is. We're not asking them to mow it weekly or even bi-weekly. It's, what's the terminology we used, Pam?
Caretaker status.
Caretaker status. So it's the same status. They're going to take care of it like they do the Fred Moser property. And I think it equates to $116 a month. Is that correct, Pam?
That's right. It'll be an additional $1,400 added to the budget.
So anyway, that's what it is. Any questions?
And Ryan, that's the area that's relatively flat, right?
Yes, the blue part is relatively flat. There's a little bit left right here that is flat. If it was cleared out, it could be used, but the rest of it kind of just drops off pretty heavily.
Pretty good. Very good. Council members, any questions for Ryan? Then I will say without objection, Pam, let's go ahead and amend the budget.
And that's all I had tonight.
Okay. Council members, this is our opportunity for any last thoughts. Any items that you've discovered that you want to discuss a little more fully? Ms. Hunt?
Yes, thank you. So I wanted to follow up, Hank, in regards to the MSD. I know there was some conversation about the reserve, and when we had some conversation around that particular topic. My understanding is that it was unanimously voted by their board to reduce it to 4.5, and then you came in with the recommendation at 5. Can you recap and why that recommendation was made, conversely to what the unanimous vote was on the municipal service district?
I was in keeping with prior decision from council on keeping it at 5, and under the terms for which council stated when they kept it at 5, that they would agree at some point in the future to reduce it to any less than 5. It was at the point where their fund balance reserve got to $250,000. It is nowhere close to that. In fact, it is backslid a couple of points for that. I wouldn't be at this point be able to say that it was unanimous, but I wouldn't say that it wasn't as well. They had the recommendation to go with the 4.5 cents and to reduce the budget as we discussed. My recommendation was in keeping with prior council decision regarding the issue, and when council had stated previously that they would even entertain a reduction of the MSD fee.
Okay, and the $250,000, I know there was some conversation about that. Do we know where that number came from and why that still sits there? And I think there was some historical context on that, but I think one of my concerns that I want to voice is simply that we've got the municipal service district. They're making recommendations. They're putting time and effort into the in consideration of these various reserves, and they made the recommendation, and then we're just going off of past cancels and historical. So as we're talking about historical data, I'd like to figure out where that 250 came from and why it's there.
Conversation regarding the 250 was that even a $200,000 fund balance in the general fund for the MSD would not touch repair work required if the dam was to breach. So they said that the 250,000 was a low mark, but it is at least a benchmark that the MSD should hit as a good faith that they're working in the right direction towards a minimum amount of money that could address a potentially catastrophic issue on the dams.
And if it went over, let's say that we've got 180 in there now, and it goes over and it ends up being 310, that's going to come from general fund?
It would probably end up being the town of Louisville that would have to front the bill and then figure out how to get it back through assessments through those folks in the municipal service district area.
Okay, thank you.
So it's what you just said is pay me now or pay me later.
Yes, and my recommendation to keep this was based on the fact that council did take action to set it at 5 cents. This was contrary to the request made at that time by the MSD. Council made and set the parameters for which they would consider going below 5 cents, and those parameters have not, these numbers and thresholds have not been met yet.
Yeah. And Melissa, I'm kind of like you. I'm trying to remember why we set that $250,000 mark, and I think it had something to do with when we had to do the original repairs on Falmouth, that we quickly ate up a big hunk of change. But again, I can't be exact with you on what those numbers were, but that 250 was kind of it wasn't aspirational, but we figured if there's a major breach of that dam, you can go through 150,000 in a heartbeat. Fred?
Yeah, Mike, I can share a bit of perspective of where that came from. Is way back when John Whitson recommended and brought to us the municipal service district to take issue with the dams of this area. where they did not have a homeowners association because of the area. Where I lived in Shallow Lakes at the time, we did. And we had just went through the dam project, I'll just say it that way. And it cost us as an association over $250,000 for that work to be done. And I threw that out. Of course, we had to pay for it as individual homeowners, our fair share, if you will, in installment loans. But anyhow, they did not have the homeowners association. That's the reason the MSD was established. And the ballpark figure probably got thrown out way back when that Shallow Lakes had spent $250,000 on their dams. I'll just say it that way. And that may be where that came from.
Yeah.
But it goes back to John Whitson as town manager years ago.
So there was some basis for coming up with that figure 20 years ago.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing, Melissa's raising a couple of points, and correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa. One has to do with, contextually where that number come from, but I also hear about the communication piece. And one of the things that came up with the board and committee survey, which you'll hear about next week and before with your packet, is that members of boards and committees just want to know if they send something up to council and something has changed, they would like to be looped back and get some feedback and some understanding as to why changes were made. Is that what you're saying, Melissa? Partially? No.
Yeah, I mean, kind of. I think my concern is, we do have these volunteer boards and committees. They're putting a lot of time and effort into recommendations, and I have, I'm not in opposition of the 4.5 to 5. I mean, we're talking, small potatoes almost, but at the same time, I think if we don't know where the 250 and we don't have a basis of understanding of where the 250 or why we have a number, we may want to explore why the number exists. What's that basis off of? Where did it come from? Is that, reasonable? Maybe it needs to be 350 instead of 250. I think that we need to, explore that, and we're asking for a taxation, we're asking for 4.5 to 5% off of a number to fund something that we don't even know where that came from. So
Yeah,
I really feel like we need
I
some.
hear you, Melissa, but I think if my memory is correct from that meeting, their own admission on the 4.5 cents is that 4.5 cents is ceremonial. It didn't, their
Sure.
reduction and their request to go to 4.5 cents was not for any other stated reason, but to be able to show the residents of the MSD that they've gone down.
Sure. And
So
probably
that
also to-
rationale to me is not that much more credible than picking $250,000, which I think is a minimum number for being able to keep a fund balance.
I hear you.
Yep.
Thank you, Hank.
Sure.
I mean, I know, Melissa, that we all have conversations. I know a number of folks down in there, and of course you talk with them daily. But go to a bank right now and say to a bank, I'd like a line of credit for $250,000. And if my project exceeds that, then I'm going to come back and get a little more money. If we had to repair those dams today, and Ken's point is right, if we had to repair those dams today and it costs us $350,000, they have $180,000 in theirs. Well, we're floating them a no interest loan for whatever that amount is, and we'd have to come back and either assess them or do whatever. So, they get the security of knowing that the dams are going to be repaired, whatever money they have in their account. And what we're saying is we are comfortable with that $250,000, and that gives us confidence that we have some money there to start and work with. And that's always kind of the way I looked at it.
And I
I don't know if
can't,
that's helpful or not.
Pam, I don't even think their number is $180,000.
About 170.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the issue that I raise is just simply, we can say, hey, we need $500,000 sitting in a fund somewhere, but we have no base, there's no evidence, there's no data to support why we're requesting this amount of money, but we're asking the tax base to keep it at 5%, but we have no basis for the number that we're shooting for. Whether it's, hey, we've had 5 dams repaired in the last 20 years at this cost. And I think that's some of the conversation that may need to happen
Yeah,
within the.
I can
actual
understand that, Melissa,
meetings.
but they have a civil engineer on their group right now, and
Sure.
even during the discussion of this budget, he, sitting there in the meeting, admitted to the entire group that what we're talking about, even at $250,000, wouldn't even touch it. So
Sure.
we're not talking about we've even demanded a number to be hit that would even be close to covering a potential dam failure. We're just saying we want there to be a minimum amount of money.
Some money, right, sure. I hear that. Thank you.
Mr.
I
Franklin?
would, yeah, I would recommend, Hank, if we can find it in the archives, that whatever was put in place back when it was put in place to establish the MSD, if we could share that with everybody, that would even clear my mind, and I participated in the process.
We certainly can.
I mean, if we could be directed to that point.
Well, yeah, I guess at this point right now, though, I don't know how much bearing it's going to be on the budget itself, given our time.
No, and
We
that's
can
not
certainly
what I'm
share the
talking
information
about.
on a historical basis.
Just so that we, folks understand why this was established years ago is my
Okay.
point.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So we'll dig that document out, share it with council, so we'll have a little more understanding. Those of us who were part of it back then and can't remember exactly why we did it, we'll have a refresher course as well. Very good. Anything else on the budget this evening? Okay. Hank, Pam, anything?
No, that's it.
Very good. With that, council members, we'll move for adjournment of our final budget session. Ms. Foster makes the motion.
Second.
Ms. Welch makes the second. Any additional discussion? Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Ms. Foster,
Aye.
Ms. Hunt,
Aye.
Mr. Smitherman,
Aye.
Mr. Franklin,
Ah,
Dr. Sadler.
Aye.
Mayor is aye. And once again, I know I speak for the council staff when I say we appreciate all of your hard work on this. With all the accounts and all the money that we move around and all of the regulations that we're required to follow and all of the good faith efforts that our residents place in us to be very frugal and conservative and wise as we allocate a budget. We appreciate the recommendations that you guys bring forward and all the work that you put in to get us there. With that, if there are no objections, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.